They said the Crimson Bridge was cursed, that every soul who crossed it after midnight vanished into the red mist that hung over the river. But when a young journalist dared to uncover the truth behind the town's most haunting legend, she discovered that some bridges don't just connect two sides, they connect the living to the dead. Right finger subscribe now for more spine-chilling tales that blur the line between reality and nightmare. The town of Ravensshade sat on the edge of nowhere, where the fog rolled thicker than smoke and the silence of its nights seemed alive. At its heart ran the Murkwater River, slow and black, reflecting nothing but its own secrets. Spanning that river stood the Crimson Bridge, a rust-red relic of steel and sorrow, built a century ago and whispered to be cursed. Locals avoided it after dark, some out of superstition, others out of experience. For most of her life, Lena Moreau had never believed in curses. A 28-year-old journalist with a taste for controversy, she had spent years debunking myths and exposing cover-ups. So when she heard the legend of the Crimson Bridge while researching haunted sites for her documentary series Echoes of the Past, she laughed it off as another small-town ghost story. Yet something about the fear in the locals' eyes when she mentioned the bridge stirred her curiosity. They said people disappeared there. Not just one or two, but dozens, over decades, travelers, lovers, even police officers who went to investigate. Their last known locations were always the same. The midpoint of the bridge, just above the darkest stretch of the Murkwater. Lena arrived in Ravensshade on a cold October evening. The air smelled of wet leaves and iron, and the sun was already sinking behind the hills. She booked a room at the old Ravensshade Inn, where the wallpaper peeled like dead skin and the floors moaned under every step. The innkeeper, an elderly woman named Martha Crane, greeted her with wary eyes. "You're here about the bridge," Martha said, not as a question but as a resignation. Lena smiled, setting down her camera bag. "You've heard about my project. Everyone has. Word travels fast when someone wants to stir the dead." Lena chuckled. "I'm not stirring anything, just recording local history." Martha's expression hardened. Some history should stay buried. That night, as Lena reviewed her notes by the window, she watched the crimson sunset bleed across the sky and stain the river below. For a moment, it looked as if the bridge itself was alive, its girders glowing faintly red, as if drinking in the light. She shook the thought off and returned to her work. The next morning, Lena began interviewing townspeople. Most were reluctant to talk, but one man, Elias Granger, the town's historian, agreed to meet her at his office near the old courthouse. The bridge was built in 1924, Elias explained, adjusting his round spectacles. It replaced a wooden one that burned down in an accident, though some claimed it was arson. The man who designed it, Thomas Harrow, was found dead a week before it opened. They said he threw himself into the Murkwater. His body was never found. Suicide? Lena asked. Maybe. Or maybe something else. Some say he made a pact, that he poured his own blood into the bridge's paint to bind his spirit to it. They called it the Crimson Pact. Lena scribbled notes, intrigued. "So, you believe in the curse?" Elias sighed. "Belief has nothing to do with it. The bridge takes what it wants." That night, Lena drove to the edge of the bridge. The fog was thick enough to taste, the moon a pale scar behind it. The red paint of the structure looked almost black in the dark. Her headlights caught the shimmer of moisture on the rails, and the silence was so complete it pressed against her chest. She stepped out with her camera rolling, narrating softly. October 17th, midnight. Local legend claims that those who cross the Crimson Bridge after midnight vanish without a trace. I'm here to document. The air shifted. A low hum vibrated through the steel beneath her feet, like a heartbeat buried in metal. She froze. The fog thickened, swallowing the other side of the bridge. Her breath came out in slow clouds. Then she heard it, a faint sound, like footsteps echoing hers from the opposite end. "Hello," she called out. No answer, only the rhythmic clang of metal, getting closer. She lifted her camera toward the sound, but the lens caught nothing, just the fog curling like pale fingers. Then came a whisper, soft as wind. "Go back." Lena spun around. No one was there. The whisper came again, this time closer, colder. "Go back." Her instincts screamed to run, but her curiosity overpowered her fear. She took another step forward, and the bridge shuddered beneath her. For a split second, she saw something, an outline of a man, translucent, standing at the midpoint. His eyes glowed faintly red, his mouth unmoving but his voice echoing in her skull. "You shouldn't be here." Then the camera flickered and died. Lena bolted back to her car, heart hammering, not stopping until she reached the inn. She locked her door, trembling as she replayed the footage. The camera had stopped recording seconds before the apparition appeared, but the audio captured the whisper, clear, chilling, undeniable. The next day, she returned to Elias. When she played the sound for him, his face drained of color. "That voice," he murmured. "That's Thomas Harrow's voice. There's an old recording of him in the archives. It's identical." Lena's skepticism wavered. For the first time, she wondered if the stories were true. But instead of fear, she felt fascination, a dangerous hunger to uncover more. She decided to cross the bridge again, but this time, she wouldn't go alone. She convinced a local police officer, Sergeant Jonah Reeves, to accompany her. He had lost his sister, Clara, on the bridge 10 years ago. Her body was never found. That night, armed with flashlights and 2 cameras, they stepped onto the bridge together. The fog was thicker than before, glowing faintly red from the reflection of their lights. Halfway across, Jonah stopped. "It was right here," he whispered. She screamed, and then she was gone. Lena turned her camera toward him. Gone how? She vanished. Like the air swallowed her. Suddenly, the air grew icy. The mist coiled around their feet, whispering like distant voices. Lena heard her name, softly, from somewhere behind her. "Lena." She spun around. Nothing. Then a shape formed in the fog. A young woman, pale and dripping wet, her eyes hollow. Jonah gasped, stepping forward. "Clara." The ghost reached toward him, lips trembling. "Help me." Before Lena could react, the fog surged upward, engulfing Jonah. He screamed once, and was gone. The mist cleared. Lena stood alone. She stumbled backward, dropping her flashlight. Her camera clattered to the ground, recording only the sound of her panicked breaths. When she reached the car, she looked back and saw faint silhouettes on the bridge, Jonah and Clara, standing hand in hand, staring at her through the crimson fog. The town searched for Jonah for days, but no trace was found. His disappearance was added to the long list of names claimed by the Crimson Bridge. Lena became obsessed. She stayed in Ravensshade for weeks, poring over Harrow's blueprints, his journals, anything that might explain the curse. One entry, written in blood-red ink, chilled her to the bone. "A bridge connects more than land. It binds 2 realms, the living and the dead. To build it, one must give something of themselves. I gave all." Lena realized the truth. Harrow had not built a bridge. He had built a doorway. And every soul the bridge claimed strengthened it. She had to end it. On the final night of October, under a blood-red moon, Lena returned one last time. She carried a lantern, a recorder, and Harrow's journal. As she reached the midpoint, the air trembled. A figure appeared, Harrow himself. His face was cracked like rusted steel, his eyes glowing like embers. "You came back," he said. "I know what you did," Lena said. "You bound souls to this bridge. You murdered them." He smiled faintly. "I didn't murder them. I offered them passage." "Passage to what?" "To forever." The bridge began to pulse with red light, veins of energy running through its beams. Lena's lantern flickered, casting shadows that twisted like screaming faces. She held up the journal. "I'm ending this." Harrow's smile faded. "End it. You can't destroy what was made with blood. You can only feed it." The wind roared. The fog exploded into motion, swirling around her. Lena screamed as spectral hands reached out from the mist, pulling at her arms, her hair, her soul. But she fought back, throwing the lantern down and setting the journal ablaze. Flames raced along the metal floor, igniting the red mist itself. Harrow screamed, his form distorting, cracking apart. The fire spread across the bridge, and Lena ran, her lungs burning, her body shaking. Behind her, the structure groaned like a dying beast. Then, with a thunderous roar, the Crimson Bridge collapsed into the Murkwater, vanishing beneath the flames and the fog. When dawn broke, only ashes remained. Lena was found unconscious on the riverbank. She never spoke of what happened that night, but she left Ravensshade forever. Months later, in a distant city, she received a package with no return address. Inside was a single object, A small piece of red painted steel, cold to the touch, and a note that read, "Bridges never die, they rebuild themselves." Lena's lights flickered. Her reflection in the window smiled back at her, only, she wasn't smiling. Outside, through the city haze, she swore she saw it again, the faint outline of a crimson bridge stretching across the skyline. And in the wind, a whisper. "Go back. If you made it this far, you've crossed the crimson bridge and lived to tell the tale. But remember, some bridges call for you again." Subscribe now for more haunting stories that will pull you in and never let go. And if you ever see a red bridge glowing through the fog, don't cross it.